Hello guys, this is the installation of the Akrapovic exhaust header system for a 2014 BMW or nineT. The packaging is pretty simple. You get one box with all the instructions, anti-seizing grease, 6 different springs and 4 different parts. The parts come covered with a bubble wrap, which is pretty simple to remove. I use a knife to remove it, but just be careful not to scratch the pipes. During the searching for a titanium system, the options were very limited, and I found the Akrapovic system to be the most economical, simple, semi-seamless, and very nicely done on the market. I put the system together to see what it looks like, and I got just what I expected. I read a lot of reviews of people complaining about the finish on the titanium headers. They look like raw pipes with multiple stains, but no biggie. They'll probably disappear once the bike heats up. They do look rough, and I knew that when I bought them. If you look close to the video, you will notice the markings, water stains, and all those things. They look fine to me, but it might not look good to everybody. A lot of people wanted Akrapovic to do a better job finishing these pipes, but as I said, they'll probably disappear once it heats up. Here are some closer pictures where you can see lettering on the pipes, water stains, and all those things from up close. Because of my OCD and multiple suggestions from people on the internet, I decided to sand the pipes with a maroon 320 400 grit stripping pad, also known as the Scotch brake pads. I first sanded one pipe and a couple pipes just to compare the finish, and wow, what a difference it makes. To me, this is a must do. Definitely, I recommend anybody who buys them to sand them before installing them. Look at the difference here between the raw on the right and the sanded pipe on the left. I mean, to me, this is a no-brainer, something that has to be done. I wanted a matte finish on the pipes, not too shiny. That's why I decided to stay with the 320 400 grit pads, the maroon ones. It probably took me 1 hour sanding the pipes, but this was the first time I did anything like this. After finishing with the maroon pads, I used the blue 1000 grit pad to remove the dust of the headers and to give it a final touch. Finally, to make sure there was no dust left on the pipes, I cleaned them with WD-40, but be careful because WD-40 is flammable and it can catch on fire, so watch out with that, guys. I also cleaned the exhaust since I already had it off the bike. Now let's get to business. These are the tools that you're gonna need to remove the owing system and to install the new one. Let's start by removing the muffler, and keep in mind that you will need these clamps later on. Unscrew the muffler from the frame. This should be pretty simple. I bet most of you guys had already removed this before, so there's nothing new here. Now unscrew the clamp on the bottom of the engine with a Torx 30 wrench. This will not be reused, so you'll probably be disposing it or saving it for another time. Unscrew the sensors on both sides of the motorcycle with a 22 combination wrench. Make sure not to damage the sensor's electrical leads during this procedure. It's pretty important. I used plastic wrap to cover the sensors, and I took them into the engine so they're not on the way as I am working around the bike. Time to remove the flange nuts on the engine heads with a 12mm socket. Do both sides. It's pretty simple, they're not really that hard to remove. Once the headers are loose, remove them carefully, and don't forget about the clamp on the back. Here they are off the bike. They're very well done, they're nice, shiny, already had the blue going. But I wanted a little bit of a better noise, more noise, not so much for the performance of the new headers. Carefully remove the headers clamp off the bike. This will not be needed anymore. When you screw the anchor bracket of the engine, this part is tricky due to not enough room to remove them. Time to assemble the new headers. First, coat all the connections with the Akrapovic ceramic anti-seizing grease provided in the box. Make sure you get the right areas that need the grease so you don't get it wrong. You can see here which side goes where. And when assembling, use a rubber mallet if needed. Just make sure they are all the way in. Also clean the excess grease as needed. In my case, I think I used too much. Now install the 4 springs on the bottom using a spring puller. I found a skinny screwdriver easier to use because of the movement of the headers as I was installing the clips. Reinstall the stock headers anchor bracket onto the new bracket. Proceed to install the new headers on the motorcycle. Just make sure not to damage anything in the process and make sure you don't scratch the new pipes as well. Reinstall the flange nuts on the new headers, but do not fully tighten them yet. Make sure the position of the new bracket is in correct order. Read the instructions so you can see which side goes where. In here you can see where the new springs are going to be located at. Reinstall the stock screws on the bottom bracket and tighten them. Make sure not to overdo it. Once the bottom bracket is installed, it's time to tighten the flange nuts to the engine heads. Make sure you do the correct torque for this. Do not overturn them. Make sure the headers are properly installed onto the head of the engine before you tighten the nuts. After the headers are installed, attach the spring onto the bracket and be careful not to scratch anything or damage the engine as well. Reinstall the sensors and apply anti-seizing grease on the threads. I also twisted them 3 to 4 turns counterclockwise before installing them too. This will allow them to go back to their normal position after you tighten them. Reinstall the stock metal clamps to the muffler before you install it, but do not fully tighten it yet. Attach the muffler to the headers and screw it to the frame. Now tighten the bottom clamps. I decided to give it a final clean with WD-40 to remove any handprints and final touches. This was just me and my OCD trying to make sure everything is nice, shiny, and perfect. I weighted both systems to compare weights. The OM system is about 8 pounds, while the Akrapovic system is only 3 pounds, so I was saving a total of 5 pounds by changing and replacing the stock headers. Let's hear the sound test. can see, the headers already changing in color. I took the bike for a ride test. I went for about 20 miles. It was a short ride, but this is what I noticed. I noticed more noise, but it was not that bad. It was pretty decent and a really nice roar. The weather was about 30 degrees this day, so I enjoy a nice short ride. A normal bike ride without some adrenaline, you could not miss it. So there you go, some nice adventure on this day as I was testing the headers. This is the final look of the day. I love what the headers look like and how they're already changing in color. The sound is not too aggressive, but it definitely brings a new attitude to the bike. I hope you guys liked the video, and hopefully I was able to show you the process of replacing the headers on the BMW or nineT.